What's going on, guys? My name is Triforce Addiction. Welcome back to another COD mode video. So today we are going to be discussing the new signature attachment that was just released a few days ago for Call of Duty Mobile. And this one is actually for a shotgun, a very well-known shotgun, specifically for BR. And that is, of course, the HS0405. So as you guys know, the HSO has been, I guess, kind of one of those controversial weapons, at least when it comes to BR. In multiplayer, it's had its moments where, the slug rounds were pretty long and, just the range itself with regular spread shots was pretty long as well. But now we've received a new signature attachment called the Thunder Rounds. And even more so now in BR, it has become kind of a controversial thing, especially if you end up getting, your loadout. For all of you BR mains out there, I'm sure you guys already know what I'm talking about. The HSO has been plaguing BR for quite a while. It's like everyone's go-to shotgun, especially for Alcatraz and tournament mode. It's probably one of the more toxic things in the game. Well, at least not anymore since they kind of nerfed it. But as for the multiplayer, it's kind of just there. I mean, yes, sometimes people will use it. It's still a pretty good ranged lever action shotgun. But it's, never really been to the point where it's extremely overpowered. I actually would have considered this shotgun to be the best one out of all of them if it wasn't for the fact that the Buy 15 with the slug rounds ended up getting buffed a while back. Ever since then, the HSO, at least when it comes to multiplayer, has not really been, the go-to shotgun. It's always, usually the Buy 15 with slugs. And again, the only time it actually shined was in BR. But now with this new attachment called the Thunder Rounds, this one actually might be a little problematic, at least when it comes to BR. But when it comes to multiplayer, I'll explain that right now. So the Thunder Rounds, basically what it does is kind of like a mix between a spread shot and a slug round. What this means is that within the first, I guess, maybe 10 to 15 meters, it will be a slug round. But eventually, as it goes further away, it's actually going to turn back into a spread shot. This basically means that you're going to be able to one-shot from even greater distances. But it's not to the point where you might think it is. It's not going to be one of those things where you could actually one-shot up to like 40 plus meters, maybe even 50. It's not like that. It kind of just extends the slug rounds just a little bit. However, because it does spread out later on, the further you shoot, it actually becomes a lot more inconsistent. If anything, even more so than the Argus is at long range. And that's why it kind of falls short when it comes to multiplayer. It's not really considered a good attachment to use. But when it comes to BR, it's a different thing because obviously weapons have different stats there. For the HSO, if you do use this, it does cause, from what I remember, or at least from what I've seen, is like 400 damage. So you're going to be able to one-shot pretty well with this, at least in BR. But as it goes for multiplayer, you're going to have to be very, very pinpoint accurate to actually get a one-shot kill from a good distance. And yeah, it's very inconsistent. Yes, it's more potent if it's in its slug form, at least within the first meters, but also the slug round is, so it doesn't really matter. It's a hit or miss thing when it comes to long range kills with this. Like, it's not always going to work perfectly no matter how accurate you are. And I've had a few games, playing Search and Destroy, where I've literally actually headshotted an enemy that was like not even a meter away, and I ended up getting like maybe 70 damage on the head. I don't even know how that's possible, because at that point it should have been a slug round, so it should have killed them immediately, but for some reason it didn't. In fact, I think that Search and Destroy game actually took place in Meltdown, I believe. I was just playing in a casual lobby with some friends, and yeah, like I was just getting non-stop hit markers on places where I shouldn't have been getting hit markers, and I felt like if I had to use the regular slug rounds or even just the regular spread shot form, it would have at least performed better. I think probably one of the key reasons at the time was mainly because I was using no stock with it. That was probably the dumbest idea that I ever could have thought of. So I kind of just figured just use a normal class that I would normally use, granulated, basically a max ADS bullet spread setup. So, when it turns into a spread shot, I guess the tightness will be still good. And I was actually right about that because it does increase your consistency a little bit. But it's not to the point where it makes an absolute difference. It's just a slight improvement. But again, probably not worth using anyways. And also keep in mind, they probably planned this like way ahead because, over these past few seasons, the HSO has been nerfed. So at least in BR, it has been nerfed. So they might have, done all these nerfs ahead of time to release this at I guess, a more appropriate time, so it wouldn't be so overpowered had they released it without nerfing the gun itself. But who knows? I mean, this could have been like planned ahead for a very long time. I mean, I don't really know how far ahead most of these things are, and I'm assuming with all the artwork that they have to do with like all the calling cards and new stuff, I'm sure all this stuff is probably just made months in advance. So they probably had to nerf the HSO at some point in order to like have this attachment put in to, I guess, even it out, because again, it would have been extremely catastrophic if they released it like that. So I understand their balancing choices at this point for this thing. And look, on the multiplayer side, you might see it that I'm like, doing pretty well with it against real players and against bots, I guess, in this map. But don't be fooled. Trust me, if you go against like real competitive players, I don't think you're going to get the same results, obviously. So I'll just say that right now. I'm not going to lead you guys astray and say that this is, the best attachment that they've ever added. No, trust me, it could be extremely inconsistent. So if you are looking for a long-range shotgun, I do recommend just sticking to the Argus for now. Maybe they'll buff this in the future, I don't know. Probably for the best that they don't. I mean, yes, it's still kind of effective, but again, I wouldn't rely on this too much. So anyways, that's pretty much it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'm sorry if you guys thought the review was going to be a bit more positive, but trust me, yes. It's very effective, but not as effective as you would think. And I'm not sure, and maybe one of these mini updates that came out, they might have like nerfed it at some point. But I do remember using this in the training grounds, and it was a little more like, better. But it is what it is, so I guess I'll see you guys next time, and yeah, have a good one.